Hey, it's Joy. I've got big feelings about little things, and I want to talk about it. Oh yeah, I'm mad about it. And the fact that everyone else is not up in arms about it is a big part of the problem. Oh, I bawled my eyes out, like I always do. It was the sweetest thing. Oh, it was the cutest thing. It was the funniest thing. Thanks for being here. Let's go. Well, hey, how are you? Thanks so much for being here. Thanks so much for all the support over the last few weeks. It's been really fun. I had a lot of fun and a lot of interesting feedback about chit-chatting about Luka and my heartbreak over the trade from the Mavericks, and just the fact that I did a sports podcast, a sports themed episode. It was really fun. A lot of my friends laughed pretty hard about that concept, but it was really well received. And I do have one more sports story for you. So I'm just going to complete the circle so that you get every bit of sports out of me that's in there. And I'm going to leave it all on the floor. So if you're not caught up, not a big sports person, didn't play a lot of sports. My family's not a big sports family. We don't all get together and go to baseball games or anything like that. But I love the emotion of sports, and I love everything surrounding sports. And when I was in my 20s, I was doing broadcasting. And back in that day, the way it would work for you to have a career in broadcasting would typically be that you would start at a small, what we call a small market radio station. So a small town would have a little local radio station, and you would work there and learn how to punch these buttons and learn how to spin these records and learn how to, whatever the setup was at the time. We used to have these they look like 8 tracks, and we would play the commercials on those. Then we graduated up to CDs, and then we moved on to computers. But the whole purpose was learn how to be on the mic, learn how to figure out what to say, learn how to interact with the fans, learn how to do the equipment, learn all the things. And then when you started doing well and sounding good, you would get promoted to a bigger market. So all the markets are ranked, like New York is probably number 1, LA's probably number 2, or vice versa. And just based on how big everything is. And then it would go all the way down to these little tiny towns like Waxahachie, Texas has a radio station. You would in theory work your way up from a small market station to a bigger one. And because back then that was a lot of, now granted, back then we were kind of on the tail end of it, but for many years, your local radio station would be a source of information for you, a source of news, a source of, that's how you knew if school was not going to be in session because there was a snowstorm, or that's how you knew, I don't know, whatever, local election things, local da 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 da. So I started in a very small town in New Mexico called Roswell. And my next job after that, when I met some of the people there, they introduced me to some people that worked in a city called Cleburne. And Cleburne is kind of on the outskirts of the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. So I worked at a small local station, but we were kind of within earshot of Dallas-Fort Worth. So I could still listen to some of those big stations that I had grown up listening to. And we still kind of knew what was going on in the area. But I worked in Cleburne. So it was south of Fort Worth, and I think even west of Fort Worth. By now, do not question me or test me on geography. You and I both know I'm going to get it wrong, but it's out that way. It's south and west. And that setup for that station was so funny and so fun for me because 90%, 75% of the staff was older men. And many of them had at one time had a really big career when radio was big and booming. And then they sort of just wanted to take it a little bit easy. They didn't want to retire. They didn't want to do nothing. They didn't want to sit at home. They but they also didn't want all that pressure and to drive into the big city and to be getting up super early or staying up late, all these things that it requires to have a big radio career. And so they were so good to me. Like I was like their little mascot. They were so funny to me, taught me so much, did so much for me. But it was mostly them, and there was probably two younger guys a little bit closer to my age, and then there was me. And that was the setup of this station. And I learned so much because this was not a country station. It was a classic country station. So we were playing Merle Haggard and Johnny Cash and George Jones. I mean, names that I had heard many times and maybe some songs that I'd heard, but we got deep into it and I learned a ton of old country music. It was a lot of fun. There's a lot of good music back there. One of these days, I'll make you a Spotify playlist or something that you need to hear. But that's what we did. We did classic country. I mean, we weren't even we didn't play any George Strait, I don't think. It was way older than that. And the other thing that small radio stations do and are beneficial for is a lot of times they will play local sports games, matches. Yeah, games. They'll broadcast the games. See why I'm not a sports person? They'll broadcast the games. So maybe a local high school will make a deal with this local radio station to broadcast all our games. That way people near or far, or maybe grandpa doesn't have to go out to the stadium, but he can listen, or somebody that's in town wants to know what's going on with the games, but it's cold or rainy or whatever, you just listen to the game so you can keep up. And then they'll sell local ad time to make some money for it. It's very it's very small town, and kind of the way things were way back in the day, long before my day. But these small stations, we did that. We broadcast uh, games. And the guy that was the sports director came to me one day and was like, "Hey, I have a spot open on my team to the football broadcasting team, and I need a sideline reporter. Do you want to do it?" And I will be honest, no matter what you offered me back then, if it was an opportunity to be on the air or an opportunity to try to do something or try to learn something different, I would do it. I was happy to do it. Yep, I'll do that. I'll do that. I'll do that. Because I was trying to, at that time, get my foot in the door, and I was trying to make a name for myself in broadcasting. So I was like, you know, out of all the things that I am willing to try and want to do, I don't know that that's a great idea. He's like, why not? Why not? I said, I don't really know football that well. He's like, it's not that hard, you know, start at one end, try to go I was like, no, 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 no. I mean, I can watch a football game, but all these different rules, like, am I going to have to know all the rules? Am I going to have to understand why this was a whatever? I mean, am I going to have to know all the terms that I don't know, like touchback and all this? What am I going to have to do? So the next day I come to work and he had left on my desk Football for Dummies. There used to be a very popular book series called whatever for dummies. And it would be, hey, if you want to learn some certain thing, we're going to get it down to its core, and we're going to explain it to you in words you can understand, and we'll slowly build up your understanding of it. Computer stuff for dummies. I'm sure there was all kind of redoing the house for everything. It was for dummies. That was like that was the bit of those books. And he brought me Football for Dummies. And so I literally went home and read it, and I'm pretty sure my dog chewed it up and I had to buy a new one to replace it. But I read through it, understood all the things, and I was like, okay, cool, let's go. I'll be the sideline reporter. I was this little, this young, scrappy 20 something just trying to get on the air. And so they gave me this high school coach polo shirt that said it was for the Burleson Elks, and I will always have a sweet spot in my heart for the Burleson Elks. They were black and red. It was very official. And I had a couple different shirts. I'm pretty sure I was supposed to wear one color when we were home and one color when we were away. And or did we go away? No. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how it was set up. So there would be the sports guy, my bossish in this circumstance, and he had a color guy with him. They would sit up in the what do you call that? The studio. It's not a studio, but um in the media space. So I was down on the sidelines, literally on the sidelines, just going back and forth. And I had a little parabolic mic. So it's a mic and it has a microphone and it has a big sphere around it to try to capture some of the crowd noise and capture some of the noise from the field. And it would kind of collect it in that thing and go in the mic. So it would be behind us and we could hear, the whistles and the guys clanging up against each other and all the grunts and the cheers and the cheerleaders and everything. And so I was responsible for that. I would make sure it was turned a certain way or we were getting all the good background sound. And then I would watch and I had an earpiece and every once in a while they would ask me a question and I would have to answer them. And every once in a while, I would also go interview the coach on the way in to halftime or whatever circumstance it would be. And I did learn some stuff about football, but I'll tell you what, I used more of little um my little softer skills, right? I was paying attention to a couple different, like I would pay attention to the vibes. I'd pay attention to a lot, like the players' reactions to stuff. I would listen while my team, the I'm pointing behind me because that's where they sat. They sat way up at the top and they looked down on the 50-yard line and I was just back and forth, just trying not to get hit. Because I kept thinking, if they get out of control and they hit me and then I'm, bloody nose or whatever thing, you're not supposed to become the story. You're supposed to be broadcasting the story. I was just so fearful that I was going to not be quick enough getting out of the way and, end up concussed. And they're like, who got a concussion? The quarterback of the team? No. It's the sideline reporter. She couldn't get out of the way fast enough. We knocked her out accidentally. But I would listen to what they were saying. And they would say something like, oh, special teams having a real hard time tonight. I didn't know what special teams was. But then when it was time to go interview the coach at halftime, I'd be like, hey, hey, coach so-and-so, I know it's been a tough half. I'm sure you're going to talk about special teams while you're in there. What else are you going to be saying to these guys to get them back on track for the second half? And he'd be like, oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we are going to work on special teams, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know who that is. I don't know what their role is. I'm not sure why are they so special? Are they special? Is their team special? Is the play they're going to run special? I don't know. But I heard someone else say they're having trouble on special teams. So I'm just going to pare it back. Hey, I know you're having trouble on special teams tonight. That's it. I had no idea. I had no idea what was going on. And another time there was that was constantly a really close call. Like, did we make first down or not? And the guys upstairs were like, okay, I don't think they made it, Joy. And I said, looks like they got it from down here. He's like, oh, really? Because from up here, it just really didn't look like that. And I was like, yeah, I get it. But I said, from this angle, I did not see the ball anywhere. But the guys from the team that were trying to make the first down looked down and they were thrilled and they were happy. So I'm like, I trust them. I trust them more than anything. They would be not too happy if they didn't make it. And turns out I was right. Just, you got to vibe it, That's all I did. I just vibed it down there. So I always look back on that with a ton of fondness. It was really fun. And it's funny to me to be able to say that I was a sideline reporter for a football team for one season, one short but glorious season when I was in my 20s. It was fun. Now, could I become an Erin Andrews? No. She knows exactly what she's talking about. She's really very talented. But for a second, it was fun. It was fun to be on my way. So I do believe. I'm going to make double sure that's my last sports thing that I have to say. I mean, until Troy Aikman retires, that'll probably be it. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. I always super appreciate you letting me tell you old stories, because I know this is, in theory, should be entertaining for you, but I think really it's just a therapy session for me. So thanks for being here. I owe you $150. I'm not going to pay it, but you're welcome to put it on my tab. Love you. Have a great week.
Thanks for listening to Little Things, Big Feelings with Joy Delaney. I'm James, the producer, editor, director, and executive producer. Follow Joy on socials at Joy Delaney Cox on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok.
Honestly, forget TikTok. I don't even know how to use it
You
anyway.
don't know how to use it anyway.
James?
Follow Joy on socials at Joy Delaney Cox on Instagram and Facebook. See you next week.